welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC Live. Thank you so much for being with us. We've just seen a dramatic comeback from Portugal. We've seen all the drama in Group F today. Delighted to be joined by Tom Hamilton, Sam Marsden and Bill Connolly for today's show. We've got to start, guys, with what we have just witnessed. All the talk in this game was on Cristiano Ronaldo, obviously starting this game, the age that he was, if he was to score a goal here, what it would have meant. And in the end, it was 21-year-old Francisco Conceição who sealed the deal for Portugal. Tom Hamilton, your initial reaction to what we've just seen?
Well, look, it's the mark of a good team when you can manage to get across the line in these sorts of games. I mean, they were hammering away for most of the game against the Czech back line, but eventually they needed that little bit of luck. And we've seen that already in this tournament, teams where perhaps they head in as favourites, they head in as, you know, the better team, bigger names, etc. But they do struggle to break down the opposition. We saw it with the Netherlands, who needed Weghorst to score late. We saw it with Belgium yesterday, the match I was at, where they could have scored 11 times over, but just couldn't quite get that breakthrough. But today, Conceição, it was all about that endeavour, all about the bravery of him being in the right place at the right time. And for Portugal, that's key. 3 points off and running, as I said, yeah, mark of a good team and getting those sort of early tournament nerves out of the way.
And showing the mentality as well there today, Bill, because it was all Portugal. And talk about a goal being scored against the run of play. When it came to Czechia, Portugal then just finding their way back into it and not dropping their heads, even when what they thought had been the go-ahead goal was ruled out for Cristiano Ronaldo being offside.
Yeah, I mean, you have the most creative lineup in the tournament, basically, when you're fielding a lineup with Cancelo and Fernandes and Vitinha and Silva. Any sort of transition opportunities, they looked great. It was just that Czechia, the one thing they're going to be able to do is kind of bunker in and limit your creativity. They just ran out of ideas there in a little bit in the second half. But once they got running again late in the match, they got things kind of open, a little messy a little bit, and then suddenly the opportunities started opening up. So yeah, you have that much creative talent, you're eventually going to find a breakthrough.
Sam, so we were waiting to see what we were going to get from Portugal, because when you talk about some of the favourites in this tournament and some of the standout names, just pre-tournament faves, we saw what we saw from Spain and Germany. England, obviously the jury's out after their opening game. Then we saw France's clash as well. And even on the ESPN FC TV show last night, everyone was like, let's wait to see what Portugal does, and then we'll decide what we think after these first round of games. What do you think Portugal have done here in that conversation?
Yeah, I think those 5 teams that you've mentioned are the teams that we're all watching, that we're all keeping our eye on. I agree with everything that's just been said. You know, the first games are really difficult, and the most important thing is to obviously win them, and then you can move from there. But I do agree with this idea as well that Portugal have so many creative players. I want to see a little bit more from them. I'm not sure. It's interesting because they do play a slightly different system, I guess, from the other teams, the way they played with sort of Nuno Mendes almost in a back three at times a lot, and Cancelo wing backs. And I just, I don't know if it's the best system for Bruno Fernandes and Bernardo Silva. Obviously, they're just so good for their clubs. You want to see a little bit more from them. It could just be a game, just be one game, and they could have great tournaments. But yeah, they got stuffed out a little bit, like was said in the second half. But yeah, I mean, to win the first game, coming from behind as well, will be such a confidence boost, and to do it as well after having that goal disallowed the Jota goal disallowed after the Ronaldo offside is also so massive, late goal and stuff. So it keeps them right in the conversation, and all those favourites have now come through those first games, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about Cristiano Ronaldo, if we can, Bill, with you. Obviously getting the start here today, and we saw the involvement in that goal that wasn't in the end, but we saw him head wide early on. What did you make of his performance on the night?
Yeah, I mean, he created good opportunities. I guess that his best opportunity in the first half would have probably been offside had he actually scored it. But it did seem kind of interesting early on. They really seemed to try to get him involved and try to get the ball to his head. That really wasn't going to work against a really big defense. And so once they started kind of varying the script a little bit, I mean, number one, he had a good header there at the end. He obviously had the offside, just barely offside, that set up the goal as well. So yeah, it felt like they were focusing a little too much on him. Once they actually started spreading the ball around a little bit better, his opportunities started presenting themselves too a little bit.
Yeah, I suppose it's hard not to, isn't it, Tom, when you talk about Cristiano Ronaldo? Tonight he equalled the record for the most consecutive Euro appearances, playing in all 18 of Portugal's games since 2008. In the quarterfinals, he draws level with Leonardo Bonucci of Italy in that. But what did you make of him today? And it is understandable, right, that we all just can't help but talk about him still, even now.
Yeah, and it was like the same with the build-up. You saw it with the way that the players were talking about it as well. Like there were sort of questions from what you gather hinting at whether Ronaldo was actually the coach of the team instead of Martinez. Like the way that people like Ruben Diaz was asked, "What's it like?" Sort of tongue in cheek when your captain, when your main man is actually the manager. But look, it was really interesting. Even at the start of the game, when Portugal were preparing to kick off, by the time they actually kicked off, Ronaldo was already basically in the opposition penalty box. He'd already gone. The referee kind of waved at him and thought, you know what, crack on. And so Ronaldo had already sprinted halfway across the pitch before the game had started. And that kind of shows how much eagerness he had, and probably quite keen to show that he's still got it. I mean, there's a big debate at some point to be had about how we're seeing the levels of the players who've been in Saudi Arabia comparing to those in perhaps the top 5 leagues playing Champions League football. We've seen a couple of them struggle, perhaps. It's clear that Ronaldo was out to make a point today. He was eager as he always was, and he was there. And you can see that his mere presence, while perhaps he hasn't got the same pace perhaps that he has in the past, or perhaps the leaping ability, the fact he's there immediately draws away 2 defenders, creating more space. And as everyone said already, and Sam was pointing out, that it would have been great to have seen more of Bruno Fernandes and more of Bernardo Silva being given license to kind of do their thing with the space which was created, rather than, as Bill said, picking out the main man. I thought Leao probably struggled a little bit today. He didn't quite find his way into the game, but he's obviously an incredibly talented player. But when it is Ronaldo, when you have Ronaldo there, it is the Ronaldo show.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, Ronaldo, one of the youngest scorers in a Euro final tournament for Portugal. Renato Sanchez, the youngest at this point. But it is now Francisco Conceição, Sam, who's third on that list. And really nice is the fact that it's almost 24 years to the day after his father scored a hat-trick to ensure a victory against Germany at Euro 2000 that his strike proves decisive. We're going to be talking about young players this tournament because they've already given us reason to. And here's another name that we can add to the list.
Yeah, well, before we get onto the young players, because like you say, there's so many young players to talk about. I'm sure we'll talk about another one when we get onto the Turkey game, and we will come back to Conceição. But just a shout out for Pepe as well, because obviously lots of attention on Ronaldo at 39, but Pepe has today become the oldest player to ever feature in the European Championships. I've just got to check my notes here. 41 years and 113 days old. The record previously held by a goalkeeper, so he's broken the goalkeeper under, because it's kind of an outfield record with the sort of understanding that goalkeepers can play a bit longer. But he's taken the record from Gabor Kirai. And I think if it wasn't for Pepe, Ronaldo would have taken the record for an outfield player today. So remarkable, not just in the squad and playing, but actually starting those two guys is incredible. The amount of Euros they've been through and the longevity they've shown in their careers. But yeah, we are seeing a little bit more emphasis on the young players, aren't we? At this Euros? Perhaps that energy is, making a little bit of a difference. We'll see if it's just a fad as the tournament goes on. But yeah, 21-year-old today, like you say, for Portugal, Conceição. And yeah, a nice moment, that symmetry with the family history and whatnot. And, the goal meant so much, didn't it?
Have you got anything, Sam, that you think that could be a concern for Portugal as they go forward in this competition after today's game?
Only the same things, I guess, that you would probably look at about, perhaps the England game as well, specifically. You think, Spain were obviously quite good. France, I guess a lot will depend on Mbappe, but just a little bit about the creativity and stuff, what sort of level Ronaldo is at. Their players were all, apart from, I guess you've got the fullbacks, but apart from Leao, who Tom obviously touched on, didn't have his great game. It does feel like Leao is important to them because he's the one player. We've seen with lots of teams in the past when they've got so many creative players, they perhaps lack that little bit of directness and pace to beat a man and open up a game. So I think if Leao can find form, that could be important for them. But if he doesn't, and they're a little bit, perhaps they just lack a little bit of dynamism, perhaps in the final third.
Bill, did you have a pre-tournament favourite, and how far ahead? Where did Portugal feature in that list for you?
I would probably, to me, I thought England, France, Spain were probably the top tier. But I mean, Portugal at this point, they've been so good over the last year or two, really. They've been good for a while now, and you had to put them at worst about 5th or 6th. So I guess after this first round, the list hasn't really changed all that much. But they're clearly, again, the creative talent they showed, Czechia had a couple good opportunities there once they were able to actually string some passes together in the second half. And maybe that's a concern if you're kind of overdoing it up front. But I thought overall, no, they're about where they haven't really changed where I would put them on the list. And that goes for all the favorites, I guess.
Does anything change with you, Tom, when it comes to favourites?
Not sure. I think probably the only one would be to put Germany higher than we thought, just because of the way that they have been over the last year, the transition they went through with Hansi Flick into Julian Nagelsmann. And I mean, we'll see more of them tomorrow, and we'll then find out if I'm in Cologne here, and so there's about 200,000 Scottish fans here, and they'll all be saying that Germany were very good, but then Scotland, in their own words, were awful. So I think tomorrow night we'll get a greater sort of appreciation of where Germany are as a team in their match. So maybe put Germany in there as well, and you can see the effect it has when the host nation does well, and then the whole country gets behind them, which can end up being like a pivotal factor. So I think it's worth keeping an eye on them in the mix. But I think, yeah, you're looking at sort of England, France, Spain, and of course we'll see. Obviously, our colleague Julien Laurent today was writing about Kylian Mbappe's injuries, so we'll see how much of an impact that has on France's campaign. But overall, I think probably the pecking order just about stays the same.
All right, just before we do take a short pause here, Sam, anything to say about Czechia? They've got to be disappointed with how it turned out, and it didn't look like it was going to go their way. In fact, before they got that goal, it was almost like they were thinking, all right, a draw might do as well here. If we can survive this, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the positive for them will be today was kind of a free hit. I mean, we'll come on to the Turkey and the Georgia game afterwards. Obviously, a great fun game, and we're looking forward to seeing more of those two teams. I don't want to sort of diminish them at all, but obviously, looking at this group from a Czechia point of view, they're looking at thinking Portugal first game. If we can get anything from that, brilliant. But if not, our tournament starts with those last two games, and with the way the draw pans out now with 16 out of 24 teams coming through, they probably need possibly one win and a draw, if not just one win, depending on how the goal difference on the other groups goes. So they can take heart from that performance today, the fact that they ran Portugal so close. Obviously, it would be really disappointing the way they conceded. And I think what would be especially disappointing is the way they conceded the two goals as well, because obviously, like we said, Portugal weren't creating loads in the first. The first one is an own goal. The goalkeeper could have done better. And the second goal as well is a poor clearance. So I think they'd be really disappointed by that. But when they actually look at the game, perhaps they can then sort of almost take the positive from the fact that they came from mistakes and think, well, if we cut out those mistakes, we didn't actually, concede from sort of a moment of brilliance or being taken apart kind of thing. So yeah, their tournament starts now really, and there's no reason they can't qualify. They're going to be even games, tight games. We saw a really enjoyable game earlier, but yeah, they've got a great chance of getting through still.
Yeah, stick with us here on this feed. We are going to be with you after all of the Euro games, and obviously you've probably seen that ESPN FC TV is going live on YouTube throughout the tournament as well, so that's something definitely looking out for. But when we do return after a little short pause, we will talk about the other game in Group F, which was Turkey against Georgia. We did get to see our first look at Turkey today. It's funny when it comes to a Euro tournament, isn't it? In Turkey, it's like, are they going to be the dark horses? And then you don't know if they're going to let you down or not. But today it was a 3-1 win for them over Georgia. There's one name that's standing out for this. And obviously it is Arda Guler, the young Real Madrid player, scoring an absolute golazo in this game. One of those 3 goals. And that is the name on everyone's lips right now, Bill.
Yeah, I need to make a personal plea to Real Madrid. If you have too many young attackers next year, you can't get everything sorted out and you're not going to play him a lot, please loan him out so we can watch him. I mean, he played 373 minutes in La Liga this past season, scored 6 goals, had a bunch of progressive carries and passes. He's just a really, really fun player to watch, and I just want to watch more of him. Hopefully, Turkey can advance at least a couple more games into the knockout rounds or something so we can keep watching him a little bit.
Yeah, it's a good point that Bill makes there, because obviously the little flashes we've seen of him for Real Madrid, you've always been left wanting more. And then that's been the case again today, Tom, with Turkey and with his goal for Turkey. And it's understandable why there is this excitement. You wonder if this is going to be like a breakout party for him and a breakout tournament as well.
Absolutely. I wish I'd kind of done my homework like Bill on the stats. So I'm feeling a little bit inadequate now. But this is the tournament, where these young guys who are sort of well known within, say, football circles, but for those sort of casual viewers, they may not know them. This is where they really come through. And you're going to see some of these sparkling young talents now. And he's one of them. He was absolutely brilliant today. And what a fun match. Like, it was just brilliant, like end to end football drama right until the end. Georgia hitting the post in the last minute, then Turkey scoring the breakaway goal. So a brilliant match, and it had that moment of magic as well. We've seen some amazing goals. I know that Sam was at the Romania game. Was that only yesterday with that?
Yes.
That first time shot, that was like amazing goal there as well. We've seen some absolute bangers, but yeah, that one today was right up there.
Obviously, Sam, you see a lot of La Liga, a lot more than most probably, so it probably won't come as too much of a surprise today to see this from Arda Guler for you.
Yeah, I mean, we've been following with AS, and we've been following Guler obviously since last summer, really, with the whole transfer sort of back and forth between Madrid and Barcelona. He's perhaps not taken off. I mean, like Bill said, those stats this season for Real Madrid: 6 goals in 12 games. Obviously, a lot of them coming at the end of the season, but apart from just the competition, there was spells with injuries and stuff. So it's not been the ideal first season at Madrid, but he finished the season strong, which should probably have been a pointer for us going into the tournament. He was getting lots of minutes. Obviously, Madrid wrapped up the title quite early, and they were in the Champions League final. So there was a chance for him to sort of get minutes and finally sort of feel his way into the team. And yeah, he's picked up sort of where he finished off the season in La Liga. And as Jude Bellingham just commented on his Instagram post, not surprised at all to see him scoring a goal like that. He scored a few like that for Madrid and for Turkey as well. There was one very, very similar against Wales. Any Wales fans may not care to remember, where he's absolutely whipped it in with his left foot. Absolutely, yeah, brilliant player. And like Bill says, it's going to be fascinating to see how Real Madrid do manage him now, because obviously they've got Mbappe coming in, they've got Endrick, and even though they're not players that play in his position, there's obviously so many attacking positions. There's also Rodrigo, Bellingham. So what's the next step for Arda Guler? One of the big reasons he went to Real Madrid rather than Barcelona, obviously there were lots of reasons, but one of the reasons was that Real Madrid promised to keep him around. He wasn't initially fond of going out on loan anywhere. So we'll see if that changes this summer and how things develop, what his status is after this tournament. If he can keep going like this for Turkey, who knows what the ceiling will be.
That's obviously a great point, because obviously seeing even more of that in every game, if we will, from Arda Guler could even change the minds at Real Madrid and make them be forced basically to play him more than maybe they would have been. Anything else that stands out to you before we move on and before Bill causes all sorts of problems with his Euros overreactions, Tom, from you on this game between Turkey and Georgia?
I think what we're seeing though is, in the last World Cup, we saw Morocco making that run, and there is scope in this Euros for a team perhaps out of the group of favourites we've all spoken about who can make a run to the Final Four, and there's absolutely no reason why it couldn't be Turkey. We've seen other teams playing so brilliantly as well, like teams surprising with the way they're setting up. Like, I don't think Slovakia will necessarily make a dent, but we saw them play brilliantly against Belgium yesterday. I mean, they were perhaps lucky at times, but they set up really, really well. They were a lot of fun to watch as well, a lot of flair. So I think what we're seeing though is this Euros could end up. We're talking about how open the Euros is going to be, but there is definitely scope for a team perhaps outside of that group of favourites, that batch of favourites we've spoken about, to really gate crash the Final Four, and it could be Turkey.
Lovely stuff. All right, without giving too much away, Bill, because this is your next article, Euro overreactions on ESPN.com. Tell us how you come up with these. Do you think, what will cause the most controversy?
Well, usually, I try to be pretty measured and stats based in a lot of what I do, but I love just being able to, ride the instincts sometimes. And right off the bat, I've mentioned that my favorites hadn't really changed, but the first header in the story is Germany's going to win the whole thing. Because they looked that good last Friday. So, yeah, this is kind of an opportunity to take the regulator off a little bit. I always enjoy this a little bit, even if one of the overreactions is an underreaction, in that I'm not going to change my opinion of England at all, no matter how frustrating they were to watch the other team.
Well, that Germany point, we're going to leave it till last today, but it is here on the ones that we picked out from you. So, Sam, I'll start with you on one of the Euro overreactions. Lamine Yamal is the most important player at the tournament.
I don't think those were my exact words what I wrote, but yeah, I did say Lamine Yamal and the rise of the young players. But yeah, why not? I mean, we were speaking about Pepe breaking the record for being the oldest player. Lamine Yamal broke the record for being the youngest player. He's 25 years younger than Pepe. It's incredible. 16 years. Turned 17 the day before the final, so it's set to be his tournament, right? Spain get to the final. Lamine Yamal turned 17 the day before. But yeah, he's had a remarkable season for Barcelona. I think I've spoken about him on here many times. I mean, even after the Spain game last week, probably. But he's 16, but he's just having such an impact on the game. He doesn't play like a 16-year-old in terms of his decision making, in terms of his, there's no fear there. And he's just when he gets going, he's just so fast. You just can't keep up with him. He can just go around the outside of you. I'd like to see him improve on his right foot a little bit if he did, but that would probably be unfair if he added that to his game as well. So yeah, this is going to be the Lamine Yamal tournament. I can't wait to see more of him against Italy. So hopefully Luis de la Fuente, the Spain coach, doesn't make any changes to the team.
Yeah, obviously, I'm looking forward to seeing more of him. All right, you ready, Tom? England are fooling everyone. They're going to be just fine.
Yeah, I think they probably will be. I think if you're looking at perhaps the most influential player, you have to say Bellingham, really, isn't it? I mean, he's just astonishing. Like every single thing he does is brilliant, and he's becoming sort of one of those generational players now, where you all kind of end up talking to kids or whatever, or those younger saying that you were there when you saw him in his peak. He's that sort of player now, where people talk about him in that sort of awe. I think they probably will be. I think what we'll see is that it's going to be fascinating to see if they do end up having that potential matchup against France and how that goes, because there'll be flashbacks of previous tournaments where France have got the better of them. But I think England, again, in previous tournaments, perhaps that match, they wouldn't have won it, but they found a way to get through it. It wasn't perfect by any means. There's loads of little bits for them to work on. They need to work out how to get Phil Foden into the game a little bit more. Harry Kane perhaps wasn't at his best, only was at one touch in the first half. So we'll look. They're certainly going to build. A few defensive concerns still, I think, probably just over the balance of that, and a few sort of uncertainties there, new look combinations. But I think overall, yeah, I think they'll be absolutely fine.
All right, Bill, Lukaku is the unluckiest player in the world.
Yeah, I looked it up. My eyes have seen these last couple of major tournaments and what happened for Lukaku there, but I looked it up. In the last 5 years, he scored 37 goals for Belgium from shots worth 28.8 expected goals. So he's actually a well above average finisher, who has had two of the worst finishing games in his life the last two times we saw him in major tournaments. So it's really, as young as Belgium's trying to get, they're trying to kind of focus more on a younger generation with Doku and whatnot. They're still so reliant on De Bruyne and Lukaku even now and at this tournament. And Lukaku had some good chances. Obviously, the disallowed goals as well kind of contributed to the bad luck. But it's going to be really interesting to see if they can steer out of this. Obviously, this wasn't an elimination game like when they lost to Croatia at the World Cup, but it was still pretty disheartening. They're going to have a much tougher round of 16 matchup, if nothing else. And Lukaku's going to need to get the monkey off his back here and start scoring again at some point.
Nice stuff. Okay, so I will start with you, Bill, because you said it's first part of the article. It's last part of the overreactions today that Germany are going to win the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, it was just such a fun environment, and they were doing it in front of a home crowd. Nagelsmann gave the attack over to two 21-year-olds. Speaking of young guys, Wirtz and Musiala both looked fantastic. I thought one of the most underrated moves that Nagelsmann has made was going back to when he convinced Kroos to come back to the team a few months ago. He put Robert Andrich right next to him, just a dirty work guy, just a really nice enforcer kind of guy that works perfectly with Toni Kroos, just allows him to cycle the ball and do what he does really well. Those two moves, really, those two decisions have turned a really unbalanced team into kind of a perfectly balanced team. And they looked really, really good against Scotland. Obviously, Scotland did not do themselves many favors, but really, really curious what they're capable of, because, yeah, if they're playing like that, they've got the home crowds behind them. You know, France, England, and Spain might be the favorites, but they could easily put themselves right into that list or make themselves, the overall favorite. Who knows?
Where do you stand on this one then? Germany, Sam, winning the whole thing.
Yeah, I like it. I have Germany right up even before the tournament, just because, like you say, that Kroos decision feels so big. The home sort of favour factor always feels quite big at tournaments. I know they've had a really few difficult sort of couple of tournaments, and I know Nagelsmann didn't turn things around straight away, but there's so much talent in that side. Musiala, Wirtz have had incredible seasons with Bayern Munich and Bayer Leverkusen. Gundogan's had a good season with Barca. It's a balanced team. They're at home. I think the key for Germany was getting off to a good start, because otherwise perhaps you can have a little bit of pressure or a little bit more weight being at home. But to win so convincingly against Scotland, I think they're on sort of cloud nine now, and obviously they should go through the group. And I think momentum is just gonna grow with them. I think along with France, they're probably my two favourites after the first round of games.
But to Sam, do you want to see them in another game? Because I feel that the caveat's coming that it was the opposition with Scotland. That's what our guys keep bringing up. When you talk about those opening games, everyone's like, okay, Germany look good, but you also have to factor in the opposition that they were up against on the day.
Yeah, it's always a factor in tournaments, and then we get carried away. I think Spain beat Costa Rica 7-1 in the World Cup and then couldn't score another goal. So yeah, you need to see more games. But I mean, Scotland had a good qualifying campaign. They beat Spain at home. I know they tailed off a little bit at the end of the qualifying campaign, and perhaps the results haven't been so good going into the tournament. But they've got good players as well, and the way Germany took them apart was still impressive. But it is true, yeah. I mean, like I said before the game, I did have them sort of in and around the top three, perhaps ahead of Spain and Portugal, just probably, but maybe behind England. So maybe I'm getting a little bit carried away. But yeah, for me, they're up there with France now. Just the home factor and the great start and the momentum that could give them.
Tom, you on Germany, the host nation, winning the whole thing?
Yep, I can see it happening. Yeah, it's going to be one hell of a party if they do manage to do it. I think just on the word though, on the Scotland fans, I said this last time, but they are absolutely unbelievable. We've had like inclement weather here today. It's been sort of biblical, the storms we've been having here up in sort of the Cologne, Dortmund, Düsseldorf corner of the country. But they've been out singing all day long, the Scotland fans. So look, Andy Robertson today was talking about how it's time for them to sort of repay the fans and actually put on a performance they can be proud of. So we'll see what Scotland are really like tomorrow. But in terms of Germany, yeah, I can see them going all the way. And I think an interesting thing on German TV today, they were running a load of polls over who should start up front, whether it should be Füllkrug, Havertz, or both of them. And so far, it looks like the public are favouring Füllkrug. Maybe even that poor chap who, I don't know if you saw the story, had his hand broken by Füllkrug's wayward practice shots before the match on Friday. So, look, I think there's a couple of still, selection debates going on here. They're not yet sort of settled. They're still looking for ways to improve. But I think Germany, as teams go, I think they could easily go all the way.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's where we are when it comes to that one. Who else have you got, though, Bill, as a favourite, just out of interest, just before we do say goodbye?
Well, I do think I'm being stubborn about England. This is exactly what they did to start the last Euros. Just the fewest number of shots, go ahead and just lock everything down and try to erase the clock. So I think they did exactly what they did 3 years ago. I was very frustrated with them that entire tournament, and it worked. So I know better than to overreact to that. I will say, though, Austria played really, really well yesterday against France. Really put pressure on France's defenders to make really good individual plays. France made them time and time and time again. It felt like that Austria was putting a lot of pressure on them. They barely got any actual shot attempts off. I thought France proved itself pretty well in that match against what I think is a really good Austria team. So if we're talking about the top that line contenders, they did better than England, even if the scoreline wasn't all that impressive. I thought they were better than England, and maybe just that talent they have at basically every level of the pitch, especially if N'Golo Kante is going to get in the time machine and be 26 years old again. I think they really might be the favorite here. We just have to see them keep doing it, I guess.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. It's funny because I'm grilling you all on Germany, but they actually made us pick on the show the other day who we think is going to be in the final, who we think is going to win it. And I said Germany myself. And they all said that I was bluffing because I think it's England, really. So you can't win on our show. Anyway, that show is coming up. Thanks so much for being with us on ESPN FC Live today. Don't forget, we are here after all of the games in the Euros. But as mentioned, ESPN FC TV is also going to be live on YouTube as well as ESPN Plus throughout the tournament. So it's a great place to watch the guys and get their reaction as well in the studio and hear from people who, like our guys, are on the ground in Germany as well. On tonight's show, you've got Dan Thomas, Shaka Hislop, Ali Moreno, Don Hutchison's there, and Julien Laurent is there too. So thank you so much for being with us. It's going to be a short pause now, and you'll see the guys very soon on FC TV.
Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, joined in the studio today by Shaka Hislop, Ali Moreno, and Don Hutchinson is still with us. We kick things off with a late game that we saw in the Euros. Portugal in action against Czechia. Portugal would dominate much of this game, but it would in fact be Czechia who would open the scoring. Great goal just past the hour mark to give them the lead. Portugal, they would get the equaliser 7 minutes later. Mistake from the goalkeeper. We'd see an own goal as a result to make it 1-1. It looked like Diogo Jota had scored the winner. However, Cristiano Ronaldo offside in the build-up, but in the end, Portugal would get that second. Conceição coming off the bench and replicating what his father did 24 years ago and scoring in the Euros. And in the end, it's Portugal who get the 2-1 victory. Julien Laurent joins us. We'll be hearing from Jules in a moment. But overall, Ali, Portugal deserved this. They were the better team.
They were the better team. And bottom line, they won the game. They were tested and they found a way to win the game. Now, having said all that, which is priority number one, 3 points, you start the tournament with a win. I think there is a lot more that we need to see from Portugal in this tournament if they're going to achieve the things that we think that maybe this group is capable of achieving. And one of the things that they need to achieve or need to figure out going forward is, okay, how do we set up this team to be fully successful, consistent, creative, and far more dynamic in the attack? I'm not quite sure what the role of Joao Cancelo is in this group. He apparently has freedom to move everywhere he wants in the midfield, or it's sort of from the left-hand side, but it is him that serves the ball to Cristiano Ronaldo in what was in the offside goal from the right-hand side. So the structure of Portugal is, let's just say, fluid at best. In being fluid, I don't think that this is a team that playing like this will be successful long-term in the tournament, because when you play against better teams, against better opposition, they will be able to find spaces. There were spaces available to Czechia who were not committing numbers forward, and still they were able to create a couple of opportunities in the second half. Score a great goal, go up 1-0. Again, we'll go to back to the start of the conversation. Portugal won the game. That's the thing that matters the most. But I still think that out of this game, instead of answers, I think there are more questions about Portugal than solutions, really. And so now it's up to the person that we have talked about coming into the tournament, Roberto Martinez, to figure out, okay, how do I get the best out of this group? Because this was not close to their best.
You look at it, and despite all that attacking talent that Portugal have, it was 2 mistakes, really.
Yeah.
Both goals.
It was, but onto Ali's point, I think Roberto Martinez has got a job with a very, very talented squad, and the bench is extremely strong, probably one of the strongest benches in the competition. But you're right, they had to sweat for it. They were making mistakes. Czechia for fun. I think the second one especially was tired legs from the defender. The goalkeeper for the first goal, Xhaka, was horrendous. You know, I just think you have to take command there. We were joking off air. You were saying it was slippery, it was wet, but you've got to take the sort of defender out of the equation, just catch the ball. But I thought you'll see, or I think you'll see a lot more from Portugal. I thought they were, I mean, look at the passes today. I mean, close to 620 passes. So they were a little bit sort of slow in their possession. And listening to the comms guys today, I think they were spot on in their analysis, taking too many touches. They've got to speed their play up.
The thing for me is, and as you look at, and Ali touched on it, this Portugal team, and it just feels like an imbalance. And in the back, you've got Diaz, Pepe at 41 years old, and Mendes. And then up front, you've got Ronaldo, Leao, and Silva. And then you've got the 4 midfielders who have to make up for any deficits in the back, kind of given the age of Portugal's rear guard. Do they have also the legs to do the running of a Rafael Leao, who doesn't come back an awful lot? Ronaldo is past doing that. And so you have a very talented midfield that just seems to get stretched. And to Czechia's credit, once they were able to get past that midfield, they threatened. And that, for me, is kind of the Portuguese Achilles heel here. Once that midfield kind of gets stretched, I'm not sure that they can cope with the attack of better teams. This was a Czechia team who had their chances.
What was Cristiano Ronaldo's mark out of 10 for you, Jules?
I didn't think he was bad. There's that great back heel for Vitinha in the first half, which is a moment of brilliance. There's the header on the post. He's slightly offside, of course, but that's a good header. So I thought he did okay. Not great. He ran 9.7 kilometers, which is, of all the strikers so far in this tournament, one of the lowest fine, because as we've explained before, this is not his role anymore. This is not his job. That's not what we ask him, to run down all the channels, all the half spaces. He just needs to stay there in the box and eventually get a good cross in, like we had to wait a long time for the Joao Cancelo one that Ali mentioned, when Cancelo went to right wing back after Gonzalo Ignacio replaced Dalot. And on a good cross, then he was there in the box in the right place. But if obviously there's not the crosses, and Leao in the first half, how many crosses for nobody, really was quite baffling. So it's good to have Cristiano there. He seems in good form. He seems in good spirit. We saw that during the anthem. He had a big smile. He high-fived all the mascots before. Great. He's in good spirits. At the end of the day, if the quality around him, especially in the crosses or the passes, the deliveries, are not good enough, there's not much more he can do anyway.
Did you give me a number, Jules?
I would go like a 6 out of 10. I think that's fair.
6 out of 10? Are we in agreement here?
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let me just go back to the structure of Portugal, because I think it ties up with the point of Ronaldo and his positioning on the field. If indeed he's going to stay central, which is what we expect him to do, and then you're going to depend on the service coming from wide areas. And if on the left-hand side you have Rafael Leao, when he looked active today, when he took on defenders, he seemed unstoppable, but it's too inconsistent. And too many times he's settled on cutting the ball back and passing the ball backwards instead of taking on the defender. Let's just say that he stays on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, there is no presence because you're depending on Dalot to take that position. And so it's a team that, because of the way it's structured, it's kind of tilted towards the left-hand side. And so you don't have the service coming from the right. The service from the right didn't come until Cancelo switched over to the right-hand side. And this is the way the team is structured. This is the way the team, when you look at them, when you look at the players and their position, it seems Leao on the left-hand side, Ronaldo in the middle, and when you look on the right-hand side, well, it's not quite there because Bernardo Silva starts talking in here. He starts coming towards the middle. He's not staying out wide right. And so it leaves a big, big gap on the right-hand side, and there is no service coming from the right-hand side. So they become far more predictable. And if indeed Ronaldo is not going to run from the middle out to wide areas, then where is that width coming from? Who's providing that width? And if you don't have that width, then everything collapses towards the middle and it's easier to defend.
Bernardo Silva is a magnificent player. But to Ali's point, you ask him to play that right side position. We saw for his chance, didn't we? When he tried to cross it on his right foot, left foot, he probably pulls the trigger and has a shot on target. Trying to cut it back on his right foot, it's difficult. Rafael Leao is a player that I've watched and commentated on so many times, and he drives me up the wall because I don't think I've ever seen a player so talented can drive you up the wall in terms of his final ball. He dived when he didn't need to dive and got a yellow card, completely unnecessary. I thought the one player, in my opinion, who I thought was magnificent today was Vitinha in the middle of the park. I thought he's just elegant. I think the way that he plays, the positions that he picks up, the weight of pass that he delivers. On Ronaldo, to Jules' point, and as Jules correctly said there's no need for Ronaldo to cover 12, 13K. Play within the width of the 18-yard box. You've got all that talent to try and supply him. If you supply him with chances, he'll score goals. But you're relying on a guy who's close to 40. Why would you try and make him run big distances? But Vitinha, to me, was sensational.
He was given man of the match, then, apparently. So someone at least agrees with you. Shaka, overall, were Portugal better or worse than what we thought coming into the start of this tournament?
Well, coming into the tournament, Portugal were favourites, and on this performance, they didn't look that. But with all the criticism, they won.
Right.
And you take that. Oftentimes, the first game of international tournaments are always fairly cagey affairs because certainly the weaker team, are prepared to put up a more stern rear guard without really venturing forward. So it's always a test. And then the other side to that is why you don't play well. Scoring the 92nd minute always makes things feel a whole lot bigger than they actually are. It feels like you've ground the results out, you've got momentum on your side, and you just take away a little bit more. So all in all, not a great start considering what we were expecting, but you take it for what it is, and I think it feels a whole lot bigger than the struggle of the 90 minutes that maybe it was.
Do you think we'll see the same starting 11, Jules, next time out for Portugal? Roberto Martinez look at this and feels that he needs to make changes?
I hope not. I hope we don't see it again, because really, to go back to what Ali said earlier, I didn't really understand the starting lineup to start with. Cancelo in that kind of midfield position with a bit of freedom, but not so much. then suddenly that midfield became quite congested. Cancelo, Bruno Fernandes, who was asked to play quite deep in the first half, especially. Vitinha, who said was outstanding, but Vitinha is so good. Just let him. This is his position. Let him there. Let Bruno play a bit higher. Don't give me that Cancelo in midfield. It doesn't really make much sense. Bernardo Silva on the right, find him a better place because, as we said, on the right, maybe not the right fit for him right now, certainly in a tournament like this. And even some of the first substitutions, forget about Conceição. He brought him in 100 seconds later. He scored a goal. Great. But even before that, to go to the back three, even that didn't really work so much and didn't really make much sense either. So I think Martinez has a lot of work to do with himself and his staff to sort out what tactically he really wants to do with those players. And it's not easy because there's so many options, so much talent. We've said that for many, many shows now. So I get it. But that at the start didn't make sense, didn't work. So I don't want to see that again for sure.
Neto might be the change. Bring Neto in for Rafa Leão.
Right.
Because I think when Neto gets the ball, he's got the ability. Well, both of them have to be fair, but I think Neto, when he's on, it's a lot more consistent, and you're trying to find chances for Ronaldo. Neto might be the player, as we saw from his assist when he came on, that he can go past players with a turn of pace and skill that might be able to get Ronaldo more chances.
Well, the other question is, Cristiano Ronaldo went 90 minutes today. Is he going 90, 90, 90?
Oh, yeah. Look, he was smiling at the anthem, Ali, and he's high-fiving the kids. He's in a good place.
Hey, I'm trying to...
He's smiling.
If indeed he's our best player for Portugal, if indeed he's the guy that's going to score the goals, it's still no denying that the guy is a little older than he used to be. And so therefore, maybe you want to save his legs at some point. The time to do it is in the group stage, not in the knockouts.
Let's just remind you who is in Portugal's group and what else happened today, shall we? That victory against Czechia, of course, gives them 3 points. They don't sit top, though, because that belongs to Turkey after a great win against Georgia. This was a fantastic match. Raining, leaky roof. Oh, Derek said everything was perfect in Germany. Clearly not. Arguably, on paper, it didn't quite sell what was going to happen, Jules, but in the end, you could argue this is the best game we've seen so far.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought it was outstanding from start to finish. This Georgia team, for their first ever Euros, to play like they did, okay, they play very deep because they don't have players as good as Turkey or obviously other countries. But then when they have the ball, they try to play their goal. They move the ball so well. It's a really good team collective goal. And the finish by Mikotadze is great, who's half French, by the way. That's also why he's so good. But then I really thought they played with so much heart. They were well organized. And then this Turkey side has a lot of talent. And we're not sure about Vincenzo Montella. He's under pressure because they didn't really play well going into this tournament. But Arda Guler, the goal, I mean, the first goal already, the volley is great, but the Arda Guler goal is incredible. He's 19. This is his first big tournament, first debut in a big tournament. To score that goal, the curler with his left foot, incredible. And then not long after, to be the one making the defensive tackle to prevent Georgia to score their second goal after another amazing move by them and individual moment of brilliance too, was just incredible. And he's 19 years old. He's so good. And I thought that was outstanding. 35 shots in that game, the most than in any game so far in the tournament.
Which was the better of the Turkey goals for you, Ali?
I'm going to say Arda Guler.
Who's had an interesting first season at Real Madrid, because a lot of hype when he joined, obviously picked up an injury early on and then struggled to really make an impact. But we have seen glimpses in those final round of matches what this guy has.
One of the players that benefited the most from the fact that Real Madrid won the league as early as they did was Arda Guler, because as we remember, Carlo Ancelotti was rotating players in and out in preparation for the Champions League final. Well, in that rotation of players in and out, Arda Guler was getting more minutes, and every time he played, he was scoring goals. So this is what we know from him. When he's on the field, he scores goals. Now, not this kind of goal, not every day, but what a goal it was. And to give some credit to Vincenzo Montella in making it's a tiny adjustment with the position of Arda Guler in the second half towards the end of the game, in which he brought him off the line, more of an inside position, sort of off the wing, inside, so that he's actually getting on the end of that ball as it pops out, and then he's able to drive in and hit the shot in the manner in which he did. Outstanding goal, outstanding game.
Yeah.
I don't think we would have expected to be as such. And if you're Georgia, man, there were chances for you late. And I know that Turkey, for the most part, were the better team, and I know that they had chances themselves. but there were a couple of opportunities really late. The combination play that they had that ends up in them hitting the crossbar was outstanding. And then the goal line clearance in the whatever it was, 92nd minute or so, that was another yet outstanding play from Georgia, unable to capitalize. It looks at 3-1 and you kind of go, if you didn't watch the game, well, Turkey must have dominated. They dominated, but it wasn't a 3-1 game.
This is fun, wasn't it?
It's a great game, end to end. Two good sides, not amazing sides, but two sides that are willing just to, just play and get rid of the leash and just play football and just have a really good go. And crosses, as Ali said, the 3-1 maybe flattered Turkey a little bit because they scored in the 97th minute. Out of the two goals, just to be controversial, I mean, it's one of them where Guler's goal is great, but I'll take the other one, Mulder, just because of the technique with the outside the right foot, the sort of position with the strike into the stanchion. But it was one of these games where you just wanted more, just keep on playing because it was a sensational game to watch.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how this sets the tone for Turkey going forward, Shaq.
Yeah, and for Georgia. And as I was saying before, coming into a tournament and first game nerves, etc. But they just played with an openness that I thought was absolutely fantastic. And now you sit back wondering, how are we bottom of this group? How didn't we get anything out of it? And truth be told, kind of given how that game panned out, you continue to play as openly as you did because I like everybody else thought they really equipped themselves well. But to the point coming in with Montella and kind of take his poor form coming in, you get that win. Now what? Now how do you handle the balance of the group? You see what Portugal do. Portugal are favored to finish top of the group. How do you manage these next two games? And that's a big ask. For Georgia, you're playing with house money. Just continue entertaining. Nobody's expecting an awful lot. And that's a great position for them to be in. Pressure's on Turkey here.
And just a minor criticism of Georgia here. You're losing the game to 1, and I understand why is it that you're sending Mamardashvili up, right? I get it. And the mindset is we're going to go tie this game. But in being the first game of the tournament, there is something to be said about damage limitation. Losing 2-1 and losing 3-1 may be the difference between you being one of the best.
It could be 2-2. It could be 2-2. And you could have got the equaliser.
That's part of the charm. That's the charm of Georgia.
Right. So if indeed they're out of it because of 1 goal difference, hey,
Ali, come on.
You got to be able to play the big picture. You got to play the big picture. Did it work out? Did it work out? No, you didn't.
No, that's part of the charm.
What if it did, eh? So that's it. We've seen everyone play now. The second round of matches kick off tomorrow. The first of which we'll see Croatia take on Albania. That is the early kickoff. The other time, Group B takes place on Thursday. Thursday's a great day of football. Spain against Italy. Meanwhile, 2 other games we'll see on Wednesday. Germany against Hungary, and then the late game, poor Don. Scotland to take on Switzerland.
I'm not even looking forward to it.
Well, I am. Be sure to check out Extra Time over on our YouTube channel where we stay late to answer your questions a lot about Cristiano Ronaldo. Right then, we of course learned yesterday that Kylian Mbappe broke his nose. We learned today that he will not feature in that clash against the Dutch, which is the second round of matches in Group D. Obviously, Mbappe's nose has dominated the headlines. Lovely. Wherever you are in the world, you can see his bloody nose. Jules is still with us. So, Jules, overall, we talked yesterday about the possibility of a mask, but is it just the fact that the Dutch game is just too soon?
Yes, a little bit too soon. And also, they don't want to take any risk. If it was maybe a quarterfinal, maybe even the last 16 game, then I think probably they would try to make him play. It's the second game of the group. You've won the first game 1-0, so you're already in a good position, even just to finish it, but to qualify, regardless of first, second, or third, you're on your way. You're in a good, strong position. You're going to play against the Dutch on Friday in Leipzig without him. Okay, we know that. You'll find a replacement, whether that's Giroud, Colomwani, whatever you want to do, you might still win that game. It's possible, of course. This team is still good enough to do that. It might be a draw, and you will still be in a very good position. And after that, you can decide what you want to do for the Poland game, which is the week after in Dortmund. You might not really need him for that because if you beat the Dutch with 2 wins, if it's a draw in the third game, you already qualify in the other game. So you can even rest him for that and then just make sure that he's ready with a mask for the last 16 games. So there's still a bit of uncertainty of when he can play again and where we will see him on the pitch again. Certainly not on Friday against the Dutch. not possible. After that, maybe Poland, maybe the following game. It will really depend on where France are in that group, and they won't take any risks, that's for sure, because there was a point last night where we thought this is it. His tournament is over. He's going to go back home, and he's not going to play again for France at the Euros. Now, at least there's this bit of hope that he should be able to play again if France qualify, which looks right now a big possibility.
Okay, so I'm making a big guess here that Kylian Mbappe isn't in your team of the tournament so far, Don.
Correct.
Good, there we are. Right, would you like to take us through your team of the tournament so far?
Could.
I'm very excited.
I absolutely could. Jules will be devastated.
There it is.
Here is my team. I'm going to start with Martin Dubravka in goal, who I thought was magnificent against Belgium. Right back, Mulder, who scored a great goal today. I was torn between Guehi and Saliba, and Saliba was close, but I went for Guehi. Calafiori is just the new Maldini, and I've fallen in love. Ali already knows I absolutely love him. Ake was man of the match in the game that he played. Barella scored. Kante, for a guy that's been away for a couple of years, looked like he was 21 again, ran the show. Musiala goal, Bellingham goal, Florian Wirtz got his goal, and Morata leads.
So just anyone who scored, basically, gets.
Oh, and played well,
That's it. You look at that.
No, and played well.
Where's Fabian Ruiz?
To be fair, he was in until Kante played. I had Fabian Ruiz and Barella as my two.
I have Fabian Ruiz over Bellingham.
Well, you wouldn't have him over Kante in a two. Not the way Kante played.
Well, I can change my formation, can't I? Just to get him in.
Well, do you want to pick the 11?
I'm just saying. I think you've been a bit lazy and that you just thought like Jude Bellingham.
No.
Scored. I don't think you've really given this much thought.
No, you know me. I was very diligent, and Fabian Ruiz was playing alongside Barella until Kante played yesterday. That's the thinking. Mulder come in today because he scored a brilliant goal. As I said, it could have been Saliba over Guehi. Calafiori, I'm loving. He's going to be in every single team.
Yes, we know he's good.
So if you want to pick the 11, Dan,
I'm just
you
saying,
go with it. But that is my 11.
I think you just already scored. Morata scored.
No.
Was Morata that great?
What do you honestly think? I'd be that lazy? I've done about 10 teams trying to pick the best one.
I feel like you're very much on the offensive here.
Yeah, because I couldn't. Because you're questioning my work. I couldn't sleep at night trying to pick an 11.
That's because you're jet lagged. You've been banging on about it.
It wasn't just lazily put together.
What are you doing? What's that? What are you doing?
I give a lot of thought to that.
Jules, how's he got this so wrong?
No, I mean, most of the team is right. I think I agree with Don, and I know he's put a lot of work into it. I would have had Fabian Ruiz ahead of Jude Bellingham, so I would have played 4-3-3 and have Ruiz there and not Bellingham. Not for this time.
No, Shaka, you hardly pay attention to your own paragraph.
What's your algorithm say?
Not somebody that looked like me. I couldn't sleep last night. Look at this.
That's never an issue, Shaq. That's never an issue, Shaq.
Leave you questioning Jude Bellingham. The game he had.
He scored a goal, that was it.
Really?
Yes.
Dominated the game.
Dominated the game. Blooming out. You sound like an Englishman.
The first half, not the second half.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, dear me.
Controversy.
Yeah,
Poor young player can only do so much on his own.
This is a 90-minute team.
Okay.
Okay. Ali, would you like to add anything?
I'd say I would take Arda Guler over Florian Wirtz.
Yeah.
If indeed the standard is they scored a goal, well, they both did, and Arda Guler's was a better goal.
Yeah. And it was just Scotland. So.
Correct.
Let's face it.
That too.
Thank you very much, Don. That was entertaining. Just a reminder, there's plenty more content when it comes to reflections and previews of the Euros over on our YouTube channel. Just go over to ESPN FC and subscribe. Now, away from the Euros, the Premier League announced its fixtures for next season. Oh, it's very exciting, isn't it? Some people aren't as excited as others. Mark Ogden broke down some of the big ties. Ian Dark, though, not happy with the fact that this is given any sort of attention. This is what Ian Darker tweeted earlier on in the day. Everyone plays everyone else twice, and you add up the points. Never understood the fixture hoopla.
Well, he wouldn't, would he? Because he never played the game.
All right, Don, you were excited about this fixture list.
I got asked the question, do players really care about the fixture list?
Right.
Let me tell you now, when you're sat on the beach in the summer...
Let me just call Craig.
When you're sat on the beach in the summer or you're at the Euros, you are looking for your first games, are your New Year's Day games, are your Boxing Days, the big sides,
really?
The Merseyside. Absolutely.
And you're in the majority for that, would you say?
I would think so,
I'm going to turn to my right.
I'm with Don. Well, no. You look at your start. You look at who you play over Christmas and New Year's, and you look at your running.
Right.
Because you know your running at the end of the season could determine so much about where you are. And those are the games that you look for, because that's kind of where your season gets its momentum, how things, the Christmas period is so important. So as a player, absolutely yes. Hoopla is a bit strong.
I like hoopla.
Nobody's
hoopla is a word that's not
in anyway.
Used enough. When I saw you today, you were saying Liverpool 12:30 kickoff. What's wrong with that?
What, another one?
What do you mean another one? Start the season.
Oh, yeah. For the millionth time, they've been drawn at 12:30.
Millionth time, is it? And
Well, it is.
It won't come in after an international break.
No, I'm Everton at home to Brighton, one of my former clubs, Newcastle at home as well. City against Chelsea. Remember the 4-4?
Yeah. Yes.
I love it. I love the fixture list. It's amazing.
Oh, okay.
Okay, all right,
then.
done.
All right.
Hoopla.
Hoopla. Jules, I haven't spoken to you for a while. What would you like to say about this hoopla?
Yes, Hoopla, great. No, I think I agree with the boys. I think it's fun. And you look where the derbies are. You look indeed at what Boxing Day looks like. And also some games are going to be moved, played on a Sunday, etc., etc. And you look also when, for example, Arsenal has 3 tough games away from home to start the season. It won't be easy. So all of that you have to take in consideration. And even when you preview, we will all preview the season. We will all look into it. So you need to know when those games are. That's what I don't really understand what Ian was saying about. Of course, there's excitement because it's also our season will start in that way. There will be that game. We're going to focus on that, etc., etc.
Who are you kidding, Shaq? Well, of course you're paying attention to the fixture list and the schedules. Like, well, I can be in Trinidad and Tobago until this date.
This is Carnival.
And this is Carnival. This is when I leave. Vacation at this time.
I've never been to Carnival during my playing career.
All right, Shaq.
Well, you've made up for that lately.
No.
We know what happened last time. Couldn't talk for 4 weeks. It wasn't just in England, it was also Spain that released their fixtures.
Oh, hey.
Of course, all eyes straight away to El Clasico, the first of which will be at the Santiago Bernabeu, October 27th. And then Barcelona against Real Madrid, May the 11th.
Hoopla.
What's the Spanish word for hoopla?
Hoopla.
Oh.
Exactly.
I don't know why I should be asking Dan this.
No. Yes,
I don't know why I'm
yes,
looking at you, Ali.
No.
Should be
Please
asking
go to
Dan.
Dan.
Dan, what's the Spanish for hoopla?
Hooplalo. There we go. All these games, by the way, will be on ESPN Plus.
Hey.
Right then, bit of transfer talk. Hoopla, let's do it, shall we? Manchester United linked to a couple of defenders of late, Braithwaite and De Ligt. Of course, we spoke about it. Was it last week?
Yeah.
About the possibility of Braithwaite making that move. Apparently, Manchester United went in with a very much a low ball offer, 70 million for him. De Ligt, meanwhile, of course, struggled to get into the Bayern Munich squad, starting 11 last season. Comes in at £42 million. Jules still with us. Jules, any of these moves or both moves likely? Where are we at?
I think one of the two for sure. They're negotiating quite well, I think, with Everton in what they want, the money they want. They know that Everton need to sell, that financially it's been quite difficult for them lately. And that at some point, like they did with Anthony Gordon, for example, or Richarlison, one of the, well, it's really, he's their biggest prize, and the money that would come from one player sale would be this one, Braithwaite. So I think United doing that cleverly for De Ligt. It's interesting. They were obviously quite interested in him before when he chose to go to Juventus and then to Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich signed another defender in Ito from Stuttgart. So there's clearly too many for them. So De Ligt could be interesting. The only thing with De Ligt is already on a lot of money in terms of wages. And obviously when you move like that, you expect a pay rise. It's often the case. So I'm not sure if that moves a little bit the needle from a United point of view.
Who would you choose out of those two, Don?
Personally, I'd go with Braithwaite. I like De Ligt. I think he's a footballing centre-back, and I think he's good. But I think longevity-wise, Braithwaite would be the one I'd move for. 35 million's a ridiculous offer. They're lowballing Everton massively. From Everton's point of view and a fan's point of view, they'd rather see probably Amadou Onana move on because they can find a replacement for him. They keep Pickford. They can keep Braithwaite. If they are going to sell Braithwaite, they were, I think, rumoured to be wanting about £80 million. Well, that would probably come down to about 60 or 70, but they want a lot of money for him. Choosing that, the two, I think the longevity is in Braithwaite.
Of De Ligt, Ali, of course, you've seen him, good and bad, at Bayern Munich. Where did he go wrong this season? And will a move help him?
Well, I think when they bring in Eric Dyer, Thomas Tuchel brings in Eric Dyer, and he was just supposed to be a squad player, a guy that would give you an option off the bench. Strength in numbers. And all of a sudden, big games come around, and Eric Dyer is starting over Matthijs de Ligt. Maybe that's a reflection of Thomas Tuchel and his preference of Eric Dyer, but it doesn't reflect well on Matthijs de Ligt. Now that Tuchel is gone, perhaps the relationship with the club and the relationship with Vincent Kompany would be different, and maybe there is a new opportunity and a new start, fresh beginning for Matthijs de Ligt. And if that's the case, then if I were him, I would stay at Bayern Munich instead of going to Manchester United.
Branthwaite, big move though from Everton to Manchester United. Shaq.
It will be, but he has been that good. But saying that, and you know, don't talking about longevity. We're talking a 21 and 24-year-old here, so it's not, you know, as though we're talking somebody who's knocking on his 30s in de Ligt. And certainly during his Ajax days, at the very least, I know that was a long time ago, he showed leadership qualities that I think Manchester United are sorely lacking. And then to Ali's point, picking Dyer over de Ligt, it just makes no sense for anybody. I don't care how poor your form is. Do you then join a club that picks Evans over Varane? That doesn't add up much either, you know. So there's a lot of question marks for both club and player here. But personally, if I'm going for one and the immediate need that Manchester United needs, I'm leaning de Ligt, especially the prices that we just saw on the screen at what, 42 and 70 million.
Yeah, he did play, you know, in the Champions League semi-final, didn't he?
And also,
Jules?
boys, no, don't forget the relationship, obviously, between Ten Hag and de Ligt from the Ajax days, which I think would count a lot. You as a player to join again a manager that you had before and with whom you got on very well and who was very important in your career, that matters a lot. And for Ten Hag, you get a player that you know by heart, really, and with whom you know you can do a good job too.
Who's the old man out then, Jules? If, sorry, Dom. If one of those come in.
What do you mean?
Like, who's the centre-back pairing?
For United?
Yes.
Him and Lisandro Martinez.
Right.
I don't think I think they'll try and move Harry Maguire on big wages. That'll be difficult. They might even try and use him in the Branthwaite deal if they try to bring him in. But if you're talking about who's your standout pairing, that would be it, in my opinion.
One more player that's been linked to Manchester United of late, Joshua Zirkzee. Jules, what can you tell us about this?
Yeah, very interesting one, because if you watch Serie A and Bologna, especially Thiago Motta's Bologna, it was an absolute pleasure to see them play and to see Zirkzee in his very fluid structure, great football, great attacking flair from him. He's not your typical number 9 in terms of pure goal scorer, very clinical. He has never scored more than 15 goals a season, I think, in his career, because there's more to his game than just that. He's an all-rounder. He's so clever, so smart. The way he links up play, technically, right foot, left foot, all of that. Super intelligent player. So if that's what United want, and I guess they've got the striker with Højlund, they've got the finisher with Højlund. You get Zirkzee, different profile, that could work together. So I think it's quite a clever move. The release clause is 40 million euros, so it's not too much. Kia Joorabchian is his agent, and there were rumors that he wanted quite a big commission when Milan wanted to buy Zirkzee. If I'm a United fan or if I'm Ten Hag, I'm all for Zirkzee, because if you have that clinical striker next to him or with him or as another option, then go for Zirkzee. He's going to bring you so much more to that. It will be a delightful signing, I think, for United.
If only we had someone on the panel who watches every single Italian match that's ever been played in the history of the world. Joshua Zirkzee?
Great player.
You say that about everyone. Everyone who plays.
My worry, on to Jules's point, is Rasmus Højlund and himself. 2 fantastic young players, but you throw them together, and both of them are not prolific. They're young and they're got energy, and Zirkzee's the talent. He's skillful, as Jules said. He can play different positions. But if you're Man United, don't you want the experienced striker? Don't you want the 25 goals a season? Do you not want that man that's going to guarantee the goals? Where if you want to go young and make Man United a young team again, if that's Ten Hag's project, then fair. Go for young players, but they're not going to be, and it sounds a bit harsh, but they're not going to be reliable in terms of their numbers.
Jules, before we let you go, it seems to be a new game that we can play with you, given what happened last time you were on when we saw a stranger in your bed. Who's in your apartment today?
What? Same one?
I mean, so producer Freddie is with me in the room, and my nephew Alex is still here. He's leaving tomorrow. He's really sad to go back to England. But he had a lovely time in Berlin. He went to the France game yesterday as well, so he was super happy.
It's quite a depressing look in your room, though, Jules, today, I feel.
Why? I mean, no, it's just a bit dark. Producer Freddie did the setup, and the curtains behind. But it's a lovely room. I promise you.
Yeah.
You know,
wow.
Producer
I can go
Freddie's
to the,
going round in a
to
bus.
the rooftop pool if you want. We can go to the bar. There's a lot of things to do here, obviously.
Beautiful,
But
right?
make sure you take producer Freddie with you.
Jules and
My goodness.
Those Derby room.
second-rate producer Freddie, thank you very
He
much.
wishes.
Much appreciated. Just a reminder, you can catch up with the latest Gavin Jules podcast. Nice lighting there. That wasn't Freddie. Look at that. Be sure to check that out now. I tell you what, you want to watch Party with Sid Lowe this weekend, don't you? Real Oviedo taking on Espanyol. Oviedo 1-0 up, going into that second leg. Of course, a place in La Liga next season at stake. You can catch the game live on ESPN Plus at 12:30 Eastern. Also this weekend, live on ESPN Plus and ESPN, Gotham taking on Washington Spirit. That game live, 1:30 Eastern on the Sunday. Just bumper editions of Football Americas at the moment. Of course, they're looking ahead to the start of Copa America. They've got an exclusive interview with Chuck Lozano. Be sure to check that out. That's available to stream now on ESPN Plus. Speaking of Copa America, we've got a special show for you this Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern. We are live on ESPN2 and ESPN Plus. Be sure to join us. And that is it. That brings us then to the end of today's show. But as you know, it's not the real end because there is still extra time to come. We'll be answering some of your questions, a lot about a certain Cristiano Ronaldo. Welcome into the latest edition then of Extra Time. Shaq, what are you doing?
I'm gonna just fix up my jacket.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Good
Do you like being here closer to me like this?
Are you going to congratulate me and the Boston Celtics for winning the NBA?
Oh, yeah, congratulations.
You know I'm a Celtics super fan.
Yes, they won 4-1, yes.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Congratulations.
Finished it off last night in
Were you there?
Boston.
Were you at the game?
No. One of my daughters wasn't feeling well, so we watched it from home.
How many games have you been to this season?
Huh?
How many games have you been to this season? I'm such a hard fan.
For basketball games?
No, Boston Celtics games.
Lots.
Yeah, really? Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Lots.
Which ones?
Lots.
Lots.
Yes.
Zero.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Zero.
Do you think he can name the starting lineup?
Could get a few.
It's only 5.
Give us 4. Give us 4.
Tatum, Holiday,
Robert Paris,
Orford,
Larry Bird.
Larry Bird.
Yeah, this is.
There you go.
Why did you start? You knew that was going to. Yeah, you knew that was going to end in failure.
Okay.
Question for Ali. Should Martinez continue with Cristiano Ronaldo or substitute him in the next matches after his first game?
My concern is, as we mentioned in the show, is look, if indeed you think that he is the answer, that he is the guy to play center forward for you, I don't think you play him 3 matches in a row in the group stage. If you want the best out of Cristiano Ronaldo, he has to be fresh.
Yeah.
I don't understand. If indeed that's the reason, I don't understand why you would play him 3 matches in a row. And so therefore, at some point, you got to sit him down. Why not the middle game?
Which team was most disappointing in their first game? Portugal, France, or England?
England.
Yes. I think that's fair.
Easy answer.
Yeah.
Stevie's pocket change. They were underwhelming. I even thought at one point it could have been a draw, could have been 1-1.
I can't believe you've got an English player in your starting 11. Best team of the tournament so far.
I think, judging from the headlines and the stories back home and on social media, there's a lot more questions than answers. It's trying to get the best out of Phil Foden. I said on yesterday's show, in my opinion, it's an easy fix. Drop Bellingham back alongside Declan Rice, play Anthony Gordon on the left-hand side. Phil Foden is number 10.
There we are. Shaka, how much money do you think you, in your prime... What's wrong?
He gave you an answer, and then because he liked his answer, he was very proud of himself. He went.
I literally could. I literally nearly went, Ali.
He said it for the last 3 days.
Well, it's obvious.
Well, it's boring now, isn't it?
Well, if something's that obvious, it's like my best 11 right there.
In your best 11, you had Bellingham as the number 10. Now you're dropping him further back.
Because he can play there and he can do it.
I know, but in your best 11, you had him as a number 10. Now you're changing the position.
And he can still be the best player as a number 8.
Right, okay.
And then so could Phil Foden. And there'd be 2 of them in there.
Shaka, how much money do you think you, in your prime, could go for in today's inflated transfer market? Now, you broke the English record for a goalkeeper.
Moving within England, yeah.
Moving with England. How much?
No way.
Yeah. It's only £1 million.
Well, yeah, but that was £1 million, £1 million back in the day. That's
That was a record.
And then how much did Newcastle pay for you?
£1 million.
That was $1 million?
Yeah.
Oh, there
Then
we go.
that was all.
So you'll be double figures now, surely, you would say?
£2 million.
No, we could get 10 for you, Shaq.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we could get
In your
10.
prime, definitely. 10. What was your biggest transfer fee?
Record transfer twice. Thank you very much, Daniel. West Ham twice. See, you didn't expect that one coming, did you?
Right, what was
Little
that?
record fee.
Record in what sense, record?
Broke the record. I mean,
How much was it?
£5.5 million.
What was that thing you just did with your mouth?
Doing the math.
I can't get past this.
Because doing the math over the years with inflation, that would be about 100 million.
So you were the record transfer fee. Record transfer in the Premier League.
No, for West Ham.
Oh, there we go. Got there in
So
the end.
1.5 first time,
Right.
£5.5 million second.
There you are. Good.
And was that worth it? Did they get the
Absolutely.
most out of
They
it?
got value.
And then how much does a player get of that? How much? What percentage of the
Zero. It's a myth. It's
Oh,
a myth.
really?
Fans always thought it.
You always think you're going to get 10%. That's
No, fans think that's a myth.
Oh,
They always thought, you get 15% or 20% that transfer.
right. So you
They
have
do that in some of the leagues on the continent. I know, like Czech Republic or Czechia, as they now are.
Czechia.
Czechia, as they now are.
Well, after that goalkeeping performance
they
today,
get a cut of. They get a cut of transfer fee.
Oh, I see.
after that keeper,
So you would-
Not them definitely, and I don't know.
So you would negotiate like a signing on bonus. That's how you.
Yeah.
Would, that's where you make.
so you go signing on fees,
Yes.
weekly wages,
Right.
loyalty bonuses,
Oh, so what's that?
stay for the 4 years,
I see.
big chunk.
Oh, and did you stay for 4 years?
Absolutely.
Oh, lovely. Good stuff.
Why wouldn't you?
knowledge
Why
and-
wouldn't you?
That's fair enough.
Shaka's knowledge and understanding of the ins and outs and negotiating value in Czechia's first division is amazing.
Yeah, I like
I
it.
played with two. I played with two goalkeepers from what was then the Czech Republic. I was Senior Czech and Ludek Miklosko. That's how I know.
Perfect. Ali, how much did Chivas USA pay?
Not 1.5. Well, it may have been 1.5 something, but it wasn't million.
And you didn't see any percentage.
I wonder when
saw
they're going to
nothing.
I wonder when they're going to get phased out of the game.
What, Shaka's?
Yeah, the goalkeepers. After watching that Czechia goalkeeper today,
Czechia.
hard.
someone's going to come up with a system. 11 outfield
Conditions were
players.
horrible.
I don't think you need it anymore.
Conditions were horrible.
I don't think your goalkeepers are needed.
Oh, you had one in your tournament in your
Yeah.
best 11.
Just drop it.
Exactly. Ali, how good is Arda Guler, and do you see him starting for Real Madrid, or should they send him on loan? That's a good question.
He's really good. Looks like a special talent.
He's not starting.
every time that we see him, he seems to be scoring a goal. He seems to be having an impact on the game. And the answer to the question is no, he's not starting for Real Madrid. And actually, frankly, I don't see him getting on the field or having significant minutes.
Like Copa del Rey, is this going to be those?
Yeah, I mean, there'll be enough games, and certainly in the new Champions League as well, there'll be enough games where they'll use Arda Guler, but I just don't see...
If he was your boy, would you advise him to go out on loan for a year?
Great question. Great question.
Thanks, Don. Much appreciated. Record breaking.
If he was my guy, I would say, Arda, stay where you are and make the most of what you have around you, because this is a special place to learn, and to learn from a lot of people, not only the players around you, but learn from Carlo Ancelotti, learn from the staff, grow and become a true professional. And when your opportunity is given, then make the most out of it. And he's been doing that. When he's been playing, he has been scoring goals. But if you look at the numbers of players in front of him right now at Real Madrid, Brahim Diaz is in front of him. Rodrigo, Kylian Mbappe, Vini Jr. And so, the numbers just don't make a whole lot of sense.
And your man coming from Brazil.
Endrick,
yeah.
And so...
It's impossible to answer, what the best thing to do is. Because I remember Phil Foden was linked with Newcastle to go on loan. And my senses were, go on loan. Go and get some game time. Go and toughen up a little bit. He didn't, and he stayed where he was because he had Bernardo Silva, he had David Silva, he had Kevin De Bruyne, all these greats to work with. But at the end, Martin Ødegaard went on loan, didn't he? He was at Real Madrid. Look what happened to him now, captain of Arsenal. So it's impossible, unless you're really close to him, to try and advise him which path to take.
So there's no wrong answer?
There's no wrong answer. Stay where you are, learn from the best, or go out on loan, toughen up, get loads of minutes.
But the key, regardless of whether he goes on loan or whether he stays at Real Madrid, is his attitude. And whatever the decision is how he takes that decision as the best decision possible. and make the most of whatever the situation is. If he's just going to stay in Real Madrid because he's been told to stay at Real Madrid, but he's going to sulk because he's not playing, that doesn't help anybody. And if he's going to go out on loan because he's been told to go out on loan, but now he's thinking, I could be in Real Madrid, I should be in Real Madrid, what am I doing here? Then that doesn't help anybody. It's about the attitude of Arda Guler, and the people around him for such a young player are going to play a critical role in understanding and making sure that he knows, listen, this is a unique opportunity, make the most of it.
Jason Brown, the fourth Celtic.
Oh, it's just wow. Your phone on.
All right. Okay. All right.
Jalen Brown, you mean?
Yeah,
Or Jason.
that's the one. Brown.
He was the MVP, wasn't he, Jack?
He was.
Yep. So you're such a big fan, you didn't know his first name.
I've got a brown t-shirt. I've got a brown t-shirt.
Brownie.
Can't believe you doubled down. Moved on nicely.
Jason Brown.
Close. I was under some pressure there.
Wow. You put on yourself. I wasn't going back to it. Shaka, now that we've seen all the teams play once, which team stands out? Which team haven't lived up to their expectations?
Well, Germany stood out with their performance against Scotland. I feel Germany at home is always going to be a tough proposition in this tournament. Who hasn't caught the eye of the favourites? Well,
Shaka, you're really sweating.
I know it's hot in here. Going to LA in a couple of days. That's not going to help.
Oh, no, that's not going to help.
Who made this decision?
Man. England.
England rubbish. Germany bad. I think Spain very much. Spain caught the eye, yeah, very much so. Final question to the boys and you, Dan Thomas. I'm sure you saw the footage of the fan way kicking up in the stadium at 4 a.m. What is the funniest experience you've heard of when attending a sporting event? Anything spring to mind?
In a baseball game in Venezuela.
Yes.
Big game for my team, Tiburones de la Guaira.
Okay.
We won that game. That meant that we were going into the playoffs. And stadium was packed. I was out in the outfield. I don't know for what reason I thought this would be a great idea. I went and jumped on the field and started running towards the players where the celebration.
This when you visited last year? How old?
I must have been about 12 years old.
Okay.
Something like that. And I started running. I mean, full speed, going towards the infield to where the players were celebrating.
Calafiori style.
Well, yes, very much so. I mean, I was giving it the full run until I saw out of the corner of my eyes that the police that were on both sides released the German Shepherds. Oh. And I'm like, oh no.
They're not messing around.
No, full speed, going the other
That must
way.
be the quickest you've ever run.
Did you find the yard? Did you find the yard?
Look, I actually got back in time, but then I'm trying to get up, and it's obviously a high wall, and people are reaching up to me, and I'm like, come on, please. Yes.
You good? Yeah, you're doing good. Yeah.
Oh, you want to
The dogs are coming. Look out for the dogs.
That's your own fault, isn't it?
Yes. Well, I would have done that to my son, but thankfully my uncle, who we went to in the game, he brought me up.
Can't think. No.
Want to put the pressure back on Shaq?
Well, don't Shaka's a sweet.
That's what I mean. That's what I
I
mean.
only had to name 4 players.
Oh, good. Shaka falling asleep in the World Cup final. That's funny.
I didn't fall asleep. Well, went into the players. Water break. Had a little,
Did you have a nap?
Look at my notes.
Did you have a
Look
nap?
at my notes.
Yeah,
Look at my notes.
It's Shaka. Shaka can nap anywhere.
Look at my notes.
Shaka can nap live on TV.
How'd you fall asleep?
That is it. Thank you very much. And a very special thank you to our new best friend, Jason Brown.
What a player. What a player.
MVP.
We'll be back tomorrow to reflect on what Scotland are playing.
Come on.
Wonderful.